Hey people, it's Nias talking. Now, this is from The Independent. I'm covering Peter Tosh. Move over Bob Marley. Peter Tosh is finally getting the recognition he deserves. Peter Tosh was not a man of peace, he was a revolutionary. Peace, he told a feverish 40,000 strong crowd at the famous One Love Peace concert in 1978, is the diploma you get in the cemetery, written on your tombstone. Rest in peace. Tosh believed in action. Standing 6'4" in his black beret and often wielding a guitar shaped in the form of an M16 assault rifle, he was the most militant member of the world's greatest reggae band, the Wailers. Next to him, Bob Marley looked like a mere pop star. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing that charged evening as he strode to the microphone in his black martial arts uniform and put his life on the line in one of the most passionate and dangerous political speeches ever given by a musician. Addressing Jamaica's two leading politicians, Prime Minister Michael Manley and Edward Seaga, the leader of the opposition, as they sat before him at a time when the country was being rent apart by murderous political gun battles in its poorest districts, Tosh warned, hungry people or angry people. Retribution was inevitable and came 5 months later. He was taken to a police station and beaten relentlessly until his skull cracked open, and the hand he attempted to shield himself was broken. He only survived by playing dead. Today, Tosh is relatively unknown. The One Love Peace concert went down in history because Bob Marley called Manley and Seaga on stage and made them shake hands in front of the television cameras. Tosh's earlier brave action was not televised because he ordered the Little Pirates of America with them camera and them TV business to stop filming. In the recorded version of that night and in the history of popular music, Peter would be overshadowed by Bob, the man who he taught to play the guitar. And yet, after a long hiatus in which the Jamaican establishment that was so stung by his criticism had almost succeeded in expunging Tosh from an island soundtrack, defined by tourist-friendly Marley anthems such as Jammin' and Could You Be Loved, the legacy of Peter Tosh is now being recognized. He is the subject of a biography, The Life of Peter Tosh, Stepping Razor by the British author John Mazuri. The Oscar-winning director Kevin MacDonald is planning a feature based around the making of Tosh's first great solo album, Legalize It. In October, near his family home in the rural Jamaica parish of Westmoreland, the two-day concert Earth Strong Celebration took place in the Peter Tosh Memorial Garden. Last year, the governing People's National Party, which Tosh supported, awarded him Jamaica's great honor, the Order of Merit, which was bestowed on Marley in the weeks before Bob's death from cancer in 1981. It is 26 years now since Tosh's own passing. He was the victim of a treacherous murder, robbed and slain in his own home by an acquaintance, a brutal example of the desperate ghetto behavior he had warned Jamaica's leaders about. Whereas Marley's funeral was a global news story and brought Jamaica to a standstill, Tosh's burial was a fiasco. His mother had to disown one of the two followers who turned up, and the service was interrupted by protesters, including one who stood by the coffin and implored the body to arise and open the casket. For Mazuri, who compiled his biography over 4 years and based it on 100 interviews, Tosh's persona was exemplified by his relationship with the Rolling Stones. The band made him the only signing to the record label and hoped to gain credibility from association with an uncompromising iconoclast. He was even too hot for the Rolling Stones to handle, says Mazuri of the short-lived relationship. He was so principled and their hedonistic rock and roll lifestyle didn't interest him. He was genuinely revolutionary in his thoughts and ambitions for his music, and he really did want to change the world with his songs. Mick Jagger sung with him on a duet and gave him hit Don't Look Back, and the Stones released his music, the album Wanted, Dread and Lie, and took him on their stadium tour, introducing him to new audiences. But it wasn't enough for Tosh. He accuses them of not promoting him properly, says Mazuri. I think they were intimidated by him, although they would never admit to that. But he was too much for them and for many other people as well. As Tosh said, I'm like a stepping razor. Don't you watch my size. I'm dangerous. One of Tosh's anthems is titled I Am the Toughest. He was so physically fit that when he performed a karate move, he could look like he was doing the splits in midair. He was also a linguistic gymnast who developed a fiery language all of his own, switching the structure of words to give them new significance. Tosh was a verbalist in the phrase the American reggae writer Roger Stevens. He would rip the language apart to reveal its true meaning. Be careful of friends, he would say, they will fry you in the end. And his manager was his damager, and a judge was a grudge. As for politicians, he talked of a crime minister who shits in the House of Representatives. A son of British colonial Jamaica, Tosh was even more disrespectful of the monarch, declaring, Queen Ears lies a bitch. But Tosh was very serious about his politics. He was a strident campaigner against apartheid and refused invitations to perform in South Africa, playing instead in neighboring Swaziland. As early as 1979, he was refusing to perform in Israel because of his support for a Palestinian homeland. What was I? The same year, because of his espousal of the anti-nuclear cause, he was given a great promotional opportunity when booked to appear alongside Bruce Springsteen at Madison Square Garden as part of a series of giant anti-nuclear protest concerts. Tosh was advertised to appear in the accompanying film and in the triple LP box set. Peter was in pole position, says Missouri. He walked on stage smoking his ganja spliff and wearing Palestinian dress. It was Jewish New Year and he was in New York. He really did have balls, but he never appeared on the film or on the album. Nonetheless, in 1987, months before his murder, he made his own album, No Nuclear War. Posthumously, it won him a Grammy. A lot of the stuff he sang about, he believed it, says Michael Barnett, a lecturer at the University of West Indies, who has organized a number of symposiums on the anniversary of Tosh's birthday to recognize the significance of his career. It was not just a superficial thing for him. He put his life on the line for all those concepts and ideas. The great Jamaican music producer Bunny Lee knew Tosh well during his career and says the artist's themes of contemporary relevance. Young people should think of Peter Tosh as a great revolutionary in music and as a person. He believed in truth and rights. His words were, "Everyone is crying out for peace. No one is crying out for justice." He was not afraid to speak his mind right up until it cost him his life. Initially backed by his band Words, Sound and Power, which featured drummer Sly Dunbar and bass player Robbie Shakespeare, who together comprised reggae's finest rhythm section, Tosh made 7 solo albums, including the pro-marijuana Legalize It, made for Richard Branson's Virgin label, and the militant Equal Rights, featuring the anthem Get Up, Stand Up, which he had created with Marley before the split of the Wailers. The 1974 breakaway by Bob from Peter and Bunny Wailer, who began working as a vocal harmony group in 1963, was a source of acrimony for the remaining 2, who had refused to go on tour. You have the situation where Bob Marley calls his backing band the Wailers, says Missouri. It was an outrageous thing to do, as if Mick Jagger had formed a new band, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. Peter and Bunny both blame Bob because he agreed to it. To them, Bob betrayed them. After Marley died in 1981, Tosh appeared to resent the shadow his great friend cast over the future of Jamaican music. He even rejected the idea that after Marley's death, he was the new king of reggae, telling Stephens there was nothing new about him. During the remaining 60 years of his life, he would never really sit on that throne. Missouri says that in Tosh's latter years, many white music journalists seemed intent on baiting him, even suggesting he was not black enough, because his former harmony singer dared to record the occasional ballad. He was mocked for his observations, often attributed to his copious use of marijuana, and the British music paper Melody Maker even dubbed him Fruitcake of the Year. Maybe they were scared of his uncompromising blackness, says Missouri. Because of his prodigious ganja use, I think they dismissed his opinions, especially anything to do with Rastafari. It was almost like they used that as an excuse not to have to deal with what he was talking about. Black Americans could also find Tosh difficult given his Rastafarian sympathies for repatriation in Africa. He hated disco music. For him, music was not for partying, says Missouri. According to Stephens, Tosh would hector African Americans for only being interested in middle-class luxury. But away from the cameras and microphones, the stepping razor was a less abrasive figure. Lee Jaff, who shot the striking cover image for Legalize It, featuring Peter smoking his chalice pipe in a secret marijuana plantation in the Jamaican countryside. Remember, there's Tosh as being great company away from the media gaze. He was funny and ironic and always twisting up words that made a lot of sense. He was fun to be around, says Jaff, whose friendship with Tosh is the subject of the McDonald film. People talk about his militancy, but he called his band Words, Sound and Power. If anything, he was against violence. Jaff, the so-called white wailer who played harmonica on the Bob Marley and the Wailers album Natty Dread, was in awe of Tosh's musicianship. They called him Peter Touch because he had an incredible feel, and the way he used the guitar, often as a percussion instrument, was unique. He was also an incredible singer, powerful and a perfect pitch, and a brilliant lyricist. Today, Tosh's message seems to be most keenly received on the continent of Africa, where it remains immensely popular. Don't care where you come from as long as you're a black man, you're an African, stated the musician in African, one of his most important songs. Now Jamaica too, as it sees an international reggae circuit. And just going back there, for all these FBA 80s people who keep talking about, oh, this is non-FBA behavior or whatever, it must be an African. That's what, there's something to remember. Wherever you are as a black man, you're an African. Doesn't change if you have the American flag under your bio or not. Now, Jamaica, too, as it sees an international reggae circuit taking hold of its music culture, is finally laying claim to one of its most difficult sons. It is, with some reluctance, says Stevens, the establishment in Jamaica really did not like Peter Tosh. He was considered a crazy man, and to this day there's a lot of bitterness towards Peter among the upper class in Jamaica. He referred to the former whalers as the forgotten man. That's now changing, with a biography, a film, and an annual symposium and a birthday concert. The man born Winston Hubert McIntosh is receiving new recognition. His family is newly unified and steps are being taken to ensure a lasting legacy. Peter Tosh, the most neglected member of reggae's greatest trio, is finally getting his dues, equal rights and justice. The Life of Peter Tosh, Stepping Razor by John Barzuri is published by Omnibus Press. So anyway, I'm going to leave this article in the description so people can read it. So for those who want to support this channel, leave my Cash App. You can follow me on Instagram. In my pinned comment, I'm now affiliate for Champ Boxes, so you can use that and get a discount. And if you want to support my backup channel, I'll leave that there as well. So please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.